Live and in color from the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful Southern California, and in parallel from the Turfs Up radio studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thanks for tuning into the Water Zone show this evening.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending where anybody is in this wonderful world. And we've always had people on from all over the world, so they listen, and we appreciate it. And thank you very much for taking the time to tune into the Water Zone show. I'm your host, Rob Starr, along with Miss Chris Austin. And if some of you are wondering about Mr. Chris Davey, I can tell you he's on a personal assignment, and I'm going to report about that next week and give you some more information about what he's doing and going to do. And so that should be an interesting conversation. But if he's listening, hi, Chris, and keep on doing what you're doing, and we'll let the world know everything soon. Anyway, Ms. Chris Austin, how are you today?
I'm doing just great up here in Northern California. Very nice.
How's the weather there?
It's pretty darn hot today. I think we're up over 100 degrees. Oh, no, we're at 97 degrees. Although we have had some cloudy, cooler days, but not much cooler. But what's interesting being up here in Northern California is this is the time of the year where some farmers will flood their fields to provide habitat for migrating shorebirds that are moving in these fall months. So even though this hot weather, there's still migrating birds. This is a nature conservancy program called Bird Returns. So they actually pay farmers to flood their fields. And if you've harvested your rice, then, your field is ready to go. And flooding it is actually beneficial for the leftover rice straw. So it's a fun time to be up here at night, or even at the grocery store. Sometimes you hear these migrating birds flying overhead, sometimes in the V formations and honking and stuff. I mean, it's really nice. I think I really enjoy birds, and so it's a nice time to be up here.
They make a lot of noise when they fly over?
Chico is a small town. I think if they flew over in a bigger, noisier environment, you may not hear them. But, yeah, it's quiet, and, yeah, I can hear them. And they even fly over at night sometimes when I go outside with the dog at the end of the night and look up and you see the V formations. It's really one of the success stories of the Sacramento Valley. Before we used to burn the fields, this was back in the 80s, I think, and they would burn the rice fields, and the air quality was just really, really bad. So the legislature passed a law and said you can't burn your fields anymore. You're going to have to flood them or do something else. And so they started flooding the fields, and they saw the birds on their fields, and they thought, oh, this is just going to be a terrible thing. But what they found out was that the birds came to their flooded fields, and they ate the pests, the bugs that the farmers didn't want in their soil for the rice season. So they actually found that the birds benefited their fields, and they became fans of the birds. And as a matter of fact, most of these farmers drive around. They have a little card up in their F-150 pickup trucks, those big trucks that farmers, a lot of them have a card up there so they can tell what birds are out on their fields at any given time. So it's kind of a fun thing to be up here and to see the wildlife.
Wow, that's got to be nice. We've had monsoons here in the Phoenix area, lots of heavy storms, a lot of rain, a lot of wind. Mostly the wind was more over on the east side, east and northeast side of Phoenix. Had about an inch and a quarter of rain, inch and a half rain in that area. By us here, I got less than a quarter inch of rain. I guess living by the mountains on this side, more west towards California, prevents a lot of those things. But it was pretty windy. Things were blowing out of the pool, umbrellas, pool toys, and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of lightning unbelievable. Well, that's the way it is. Anyhow, hey, you article which I read, I was interesting. We had it talks about J. Famiglietti, who's a hydrologist and professor at ASU. I don't know if that's a new thing to him because I know he was on our show a couple of years ago. Really good guy.
Yeah, no, he was actually at I think at UC Irvine in Southern California, and then he went up to Canada and spent a few years up in Canada, and now he's back at Arizona State University. I don't know if he is one of those professors that does this thing still from Canada, or if he's actually back living in Arizona full time. But yeah, he is a groundwater expert. Yep. Very, very smart guy.
I'm gonna try to get a hold of him and see if he can come back on the show. It's like I said, it's been a couple of years. We do have a review of one of his books that he wrote at the time, and Chris and I did. That was pretty interesting. I was reading a story that you had in about humanity is rapidly depleting water, and much of the world is getting drier. I believe that.
Yes, and actually, this is sort of a repeat of a story that hit a couple weeks ago. And this is just L.A. Times reporter Ian James going back and kind of digging into this issue a little bit. But yeah, they're seeing, what they call mega drying regions that are immense, and they're expanding. And they say this is happening by rising temperature and widespread groundwater overpumping. I mean, it took millennia for that water to accumulate underground, and yet I would say since the invention of the centrifugal pump back in, when was that? Was that the late 1800s, the early 1900s? Yeah. Since they developed that pump, and we could now really suck the water out of the ground, that's what's been happening. In fact, they say groundwater pumping is one of the leading drivers now of sea level rise. And water. I mean, there was also another study that predated that by a few weeks that said that the Earth's poles are shifting because of just all this water and weight. Water is heavy stuff, so you have like that big, huge dam in China storing all that water. I mean, this is really changing the physics of our planet because, I mean, it's almost mind-boggling to think about, but it's actually true because, everybody is pumping groundwater. It's just not California or the United States. This is happening worldwide. And you pull that water up and you dump it into the, put it on your land, it flows off, and generally it's going to end up in the ocean somewhere or in a terminal lake. But you're moving heavy water around, and it's happening a lot. So it's very interesting. But yeah, rising temperature is another big thing.
Yeah. I've been reading more about, and we're going to have these other people back on the show about water atmosphere harvesting, and they put some things up in down in Africa and some other places, and so we also had, if you remember, a gentleman who owned a company who's going to move and start actually doing it, moving icebergs. Yeah, and
I can't see towing icebergs as being a very long-lasting solution for water scarcity. I mean, there's only so many icebergs you can tow. And I'm just like sort of flummoxed by thinking about how you would like tow an iceberg down to Los Angeles. Okay, then how are you going to get the water out of it? Presuming that it didn't melt along the way. I mean, I guess they have an idea for this, but I think towing icebergs is not a very long-term solution. Neither would be putting water in trains and shipping it out to the West Coast. I mean, that's
No.
another.
I got to call. I got to call the guy we had on who owns the water train company that did that years ago. I don't know if he's still in business or what. Like I said, they had a 100 and something tanker cars that they used. That's probably about 6, 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. But I'd like to find out what's happening with that. Are they still in business? Does it work out? Because you're right, a lot of these great ideas that people come on, especially this one that they're going to move on Iceberg, and they're building new docking areas out in Sweden and some other places for it. It's going to cost a fortune, and
it is. And when you really think about how water is used in the United States, urban environments are actually very, they do take water. Cities do use water, but not nearly at the scale of agriculture.
No.
So, maybe if you had a city that was in dire straits, like in South Africa a few years ago, maybe you can ship them out a train of water to the city, and that might help them through a tough time. But if you ship a train of water out to the agriculture, it's going to use that water very quickly and turn around and say, "Where's more?"
Yeah.
I mean, it just would not be practical to do that on a large scale basis for any period of time.
Yeah, I knew about the water. With how being heavy, it's like 8.34 pounds to a gallon of water. So imagine filling up one of those train cars that weigh thousands of pounds to begin with, or even some ship trying to haul. It might move smoother in water, but that's a lot of stuff to haul.
Oh yeah.
But these atmosphere water harvesting systems, they put some in Washington D.C. at a couple of universities, a couple hospitals, a couple of different continents, and I want to hear how that's working out. Because
participant is now joining.
Because that's going to be another way of collecting water that's just sitting up in the air right now, and but they say it's very successful. It's new technology that they have, and that plus a new desal facility, that they're trying out with underground underwater pods and such like that. That should be really, really interesting. I'm glad technology is moving forward, and we had a person on a couple of weeks ago from a company called Science, and they're in New York, London, and some other places in Asia, and their business is funding new technology companies in water treatment and water preservation, and that's a big business. They say it's a big money-making business. And but where it used to take 30, 40 years for a new technology to come up, it's now 6 months, and you can get something going. So it's pretty interesting what the world knows. I think the world has woken up to know that the water we got is the water we're all going to get, and we're not getting any more of it. We can reuse it thousands of times for tens of thousands of years, but we ain't getting any more.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to have to learn to adapt to some of these changes that are occurring, and I think that is not going to include, large interbasin transfers or water trains or icebergs. I mean, we really have to be careful. Now, there's an interesting study that was out that I posted today from the American Geophysical Union that says in terms of household use, toilets and showers make up the vast majority of water that you use in your house, which is, not surprising. They say 70% of indoor water consumption. And, in their study, the homes in California, they found, use less water than other states, which I think is because we certainly have aggressively implemented things like swapping out toilets with more efficient water use toilets. And I think there are some people that use, low-flow shower heads, although I have I went to the state fair and they were advertising this particular shower head as low flow, and I could not see how you could have a shower head the size of your hand dumping water on your head as low flow. I mean, it just did not. It just did not compute. And I'm not sure how many people actually do those things. But it was, I guess, to me, not surprising that California used less water. What I thought was interesting is that they said homes built around 1968 had better water usage on average compared to newer homes, like those built around 1994. I thought that was really interesting, and so I dug into the article to figure out why, and it said because around 1968 they started building homes with humidifiers. Now, I don't think in California, or even when I lived in Reno, I'm not sure we ever lived with a humidifier, but they may also be referring to swamp coolers. Yeah. And swamp coolers are not widely used in California. We did have one in our house in Canyon Country in Southern California, and it was good for some days, but it's not an entirely efficient way to cool your house if you live in a desert area where it can exceed triple digits. It doesn't make for comfortable living. So anyway, I thought it was an interesting study.
You're right on that. I can tell you in the older parts of different cities out in the Phoenix and the Phoenix suburbs, in stuff that was built 20, 30 years ago, most of those people have the those kind of air conditioners. I wouldn't call them air conditioners, but swamp coolers mounted on their roof, and especially mounted on the roof. I got to get a lot of heat. And even my new house that I'm in, it has air conditioning. It has 2 air conditioning units, but they stick them up in the attic. And I thought, and they got special venting and things to make it stimulate the air and get it cooler in there. But it's that. But you got to remember what you were saying with the newer homes in California. California is with the EPA and the standards that they're putting out. On new homes they got to use low flow dishwashers, low flow laundry things of that sort. So and irrigation products too. And so yeah, I see a significant reduction in that. But my beef has always been, just because they do it, they stick it in a new house, what happens down the road a couple of years when the people who own those properties want to sell? Nobody comes back and validates that the irrigation system's in the condition it was when they installed it and got it all approved. So
the outdoor irrigation is actually, really hard. People actually do these conversions to low water use plants, really change out their yards. But to do that, you also need a healthy dose of education, because you need to treat those low water plants differently. And one common mistake that homeowners make sometimes is they overwater these low water plants because that's what they're used to. I mean, for some people, it's like, oh, the lawn is brown, we must put water on it. Oh, the plant is brown, put water on it. Oh, it's still brown, put more water on it. I mean, that's like the only thing that some people can figure out what to do when they have a plant in their yard that isn't doing well.
Well, you also have to know what is the local vegetation that grows here. People import plants and things from out of state and other places, and it's a totally different environment here out in the Phoenix area and in the suburbs. It's pretty hot. I mean, we have some fruit trees that we had to get covers for. They were newbies, I call them. when we put them in, and but we had to cover them because they were getting what we thought on water, but the tops of the leaves were just burning like hell, and so that's pretty dressy. You got to use a lot of native plants that's for the area to plant. And I used to think when people use that word native that it was going to be lousy, like cactus and some other stuff. But I had a friend of mine who is a horticulturist at one of the universities out in Palm Springs, and he gave me a book about all different kinds of flora and things that you could use in California, desert area. Beautiful plants, beautiful shrubs. Never knew about it coming from California, but it was awesome. And we got a lot of those now that we stuck in our home here. And if you go to some of the better nurseries out here, they have really good experts that can tell you what to choose. But that's an important thing. Hey,
yeah, and I think going to a local nursery where you have, I think local, smaller regional nurseries are better than, say, the Home Depot or Lowe's.
Yes.
Because you have much better people in there that understand the environment and have more carefully selected plants.
And they can call those plants by their scientific names, not like the normal ones that you do at Home Depot. And I'm not putting Home Depot down, but there's a different, I mean, they hire different type people.
Well,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish up. I'm sorry.
Oh, gosh, I lost it. The train took off without me on it.
well, I don't see it on my screen. You have your video off. But anyway, you did a thing that's which is interesting. What's at the bottom of Lake Tahoe?
I don't know, folks, but you can go check it out tomorrow morning at 9:30. They're going to do a live stream about this guy is very excited to show everybody what's on the bottom of Lake Tahoe. If he has a little unmanned vehicle or manned vehicle or something, and they scuba dive. So, it'll be interesting and fun to see. I'm kind of curious, what is on the bottom of Lake Tahoe?
Maybe it's Geraldo Rivera doing another special. I don't know. I remember when he did that one with the safe that was supposed to have Hoffa buried inside of it, or money in it, and nothing panned out from that. But there's a lot of excitement, got a lot of people. So the last thing to talk about, because Davey would want to know, the feds get 9 months to determine if San Francisco estuary white sturgeon is threatened. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, we'll see how this goes. Basically, there's time limits set up with the Endangered Species Act, and things get set in motion, and you need to make a decision. And so they did not make a decision in time, so they were sued. And so they're saying, well, we can't, process this petition because we've had our staffing cut, and, and it's going to affect all these other things. And the court just said, that's the problem of your own making. You still have legal requirements, What is it? The court accepts that the hiring freeze is in place and that it was imposed by the president, who is not a party to this case, the judge said. The court presumes that any reduction in force is within the control of the defendants named in this case, who include the Secretary of the Interior and who are obligated by law to comply with the deadline. So they have 9 months to do it. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
They'll kick it down the road again, I'm sure. Anyway.
Yeah, or we'll see. Anything can happen these days.
That's true. Hey, for our listeners, just so you know, if you go to Miss Austin's beautiful blog that she does every day called Maven's Notebook, you can become a subscriber and get all the latest news of what's happening in water. It gets right to your office or your laptop or your PC or your phone. It's a great way to get an update of all the things that she knows behind the scenes, because she knows everybody, and she does a good job at that. Again, I praise her for doing this, and I don't know, I can't even imagine how she sleeps at 2 hours at night because of all the typing and writing she has to do to get this thing out in the morning. Because I get it at 6 o'clock in the morning, so I know she's done before that. So, but if you'd also like to be a sponsor of that, go to mavensnotebook.com. Again, it's well worth to get behind-the-scenes information on really what's happening with water. So, Chris, as always, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll hear from you next week. You have a great, hope it cools down. We're in Northern California where you are, and I'm supposed to go back there in a week or two and get to my office. But right now I'm enjoying the heat. And it's actually nicer at night. It's about 80-something degrees, so it's nice to go swimming about that. So, anyway, thank you, Chris. We enjoy you, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. All right, we're going to take a little break for our sponsors. We'll be back after that. We have a very special guest, and so stick around. We'll be right back.
Water is one of the biggest expenses for communities, HOAs, universities, golf courses, and resorts. So keeping those costs under control, especially when rates are increasing while water supplies are being reduced, are often essential to a customer's survival. Managing water requires multiple skills, which is why it's been complicated and difficult until now. AquaTrack brings multiple skills and technologies together to help large system users conserve outdoor water and improve the health of their landscapes. AquaTrack's professionals are certified landscape water managers and certified landscape irrigation auditors. The company offers audit services, upgrade advice, technical expertise, and water use monitoring. We already manage irrigation water for the largest homeowner associations in Arizona, and we're prepared to bring our knowledge and experience to help others, including landscapers and designers. Give us a call and hear how AquaTrack saved one HOA some 430 million gallons of water and $200,000 in annual water expenses. AquaTrack is Arizona-based, and you can reach us at 623-594-8689. That's 623-594-8689.
One of the most time-saving tools I found for my customers is our app and our e-commerce feature. So customers actually have the ability to view all of their quotes in one place. If you contact your Site One seller, you'll be able to log into your account and see all your quotes in one place. And instead of jumping on the phone or waiting for your seller to call you back, you can approve it right from the website, and it will send a message to your sales rep to get it on order and reserve the material. Customers can learn more about these tools at their Site One branch, from their local seller, from their local CX specialist, and from SiteOne.com, or by downloading the Site One app.
All right, so welcome back to the second half of the Water Zone. Thanks for tuning in again, and we appreciate your listening audience, and you make us very successful, and we do appreciate it. Chris Davey and I, a couple of weeks ago, as you guys listened to the show, celebrated our 500th broadcast and our 10th year with NBC, and we were very appreciative of that. And it's really because of you guys. We just try to bring people who are smarter than us on the show and give us some information and give you some information. So we're going to give you some more today. I'm very happy today to have a very distinguished guest on the show. I'm going to give you a little background on this gentleman. His name is Mark Freeman, and Mark was elected in 2024 as the 41st mayor of Mesa, Arizona. He's a lifelong resident. He exemplifies the values of family, hard work, and community. Mark previously represented District 1 on the Mesa City Council from 2017 to 2024 and served as vice mayor from 2019 to 2021. His connection and his family runs really deep. His ancestors were some of Mesa's first families, and Mark is still active in farming today. And Mark, and this guy exemplifies public service. Mark retired as a captain paramedic after dedicating 31 years to the Mesa Fire and Medical Department. His passion for community service extends to leadership roles in local organizations. So, without further ado, the distinguished mayor, Mr. Mark Freeman. Mark, how are you?
Good, Rob. How are you? Good to hear you.
Thank you very much for coming on the show, and I'm going to get to meet you in a week in person. Your city has participated in what's called the Wyland National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation. And maybe before we get into that, just for our listeners, because people listen all over the world with us, tell us a little about Mesa, Arizona.
Yeah, Mesa is a unique city here. We're the third largest city in Arizona. We have about 520,000, along with being the 36th largest city in the United States, and a lot of people don't realize that. Mesa was actually founded by one of my great-grandfathers in 1878 on my mother's side, and so our family has been involved in agriculture for obviously decades, and I currently do farm today. But with that, the stewardship that I have, I'm very conscious of the fact that water is an important, integral part of our community, and especially Arizona. As you know, we're in a desert, but we have done a lot of work in resiliency and water conservation to prepare for the future. So I'm sure that's one of our discussion topics, and we're happy to participate in the Wyland National Mayor's Challenge, and we've done that since 2017.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stop there.
Oh, that's okay. I heard a petition's going through to change the city to Freemanville. I'm only kidding.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Well, we do have a road.
Yes.
We do have a road named after my great-grandfather, so.
That's nice. That's a nice thing. So how and why did you get involved with Mesa? I've been involved, just so you know, or maybe you do know, for the last 16 years with the Wyland Foundation. Our company, the Toro company, is a big sponsor of Wyland, and Wyland and Steve Creech and all his staff are just great personal friends with us. Personally, I live out here in Arizona as well. I live at the west end of the valley in Verrado, Buckeye. And I don't know why they call it a Verrado. I thought that should be its own city, but maybe someday it will be instead of the other. But anyway, I love it out here. It's nice. I think the people are awesome. So how did you find out about that, and what has that done to you guys? And you guys have won an award that's coming up next Wednesday, I believe, the 12th. And I'll be there. I'm going to be speaking for a few minutes there, and I'm bringing some other goodies to give away to some of the school people and your staff as well. And so that'll be nice to get to meet you in person. But how did it all start, and why did your city decide to get involved with that?
Well, we're proactive versus reactive, and I think that our city staff, we're always consciously looking at different ways that we can participate in challenges. And, like, I know where you live out in Verrado. You're by the White Tank Mountains out there, and in Buckeye, there to the north of the I-10. And, we both are very conscious about water. And, we felt like this is a challenging way that we can remind residents and commercial and industrial users, individual actions, they matter. Leaks happen, there's irrigation. I heard you talk about water-efficient appliances and utility items, which, ironically, for Arizona, we have been doing that for decades versus some of our neighboring states. So we're very conscious of our water use here, in especially Mesa, Arizona.
Wow. Your people did really, really well. I was looking at the statistics. I get to review that with Steve a lot, and I was amazed that you guys did awesome. I mean, you definitely did what you had to do. Where does just for our listeners that are all over the world and all over the U.S., where does your water come from?
Yeah, so we have three sources of water for Mesa, and I'll talk about Mesa. We use about 90,000 acre-feet of water for delivery to our residents, and we participate with Salt River Project. They're a large water supplier here for Mesa and mainly the East Valley that extends to the West Valley to some extent, and they have a large reservoir system. We do have a well system that we do. We do store water underground in our aquifers. We have about 560,000 acre-feet of water stored underground it's kind of like our savings account like you would have for financially, as well as one of our primary suppliers is Central Arizona Project. Mm-hmm. And we get a large portion of our water, actually about 57% of our water does come from the Central Arizona Project, which means it comes from the Colorado River between the upper and lower basins and delivering water to our community.
Pretty awesome. I've done Brenda Berman. I'm sure you must have met her or know of her from Central Arizona Project. She's been on our show a couple times, and it's just awesome. And told us about.
Could I expand with Miss Berman? So actually, Mayor Gallego and I and some coalition of mayors, we just had a public service announcements regarding protecting Arizona's lifeline. It's a bipartisan representative of mayors supporting our use and allocation of Colorado River water delivered by the Central Arizona Project. And so we are proud to support Miss Berman in this project.
Yeah, she's a good lady. I mean, she came from U.S. I just went blank. With the government, she was handling the resource of water and stuff, and just an amazing person, very intelligent, and knows her business. And I'm proud to know her, and I learned a lot from her as well.
She was with the Bureau of Reclamation. She was director for the Bureau.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I get old and I have mind blank. Thank you. It happened.
You're welcome.
That was a senior moment for me, I guess. I guess I'm allowed one per show, I'm told. Anyway, does the city and a water district offer rebates for any purchasing of water-saving devices, appliances, irrigation products, or anything like that?
Yeah, so we have a program called Water Use It Wisely. We founded that in 1999. We have 21 statewide partners, but we look at grass to zero scape for residential customers. We've been able to save about 146 million gallons of water since 2007. The non-residential users, we can do some conservation and grant funding up to $50,000. I made some notes on this because I thought you might ask. And some businesses, irrigation equipment and controllers, $20,000 worth of incentives, and savings up to $70 million. So, yeah, and you know what, Rob, we also do free assessments for HOAs and others. So we'll come out and assess your property and help you reduce your water use.
Oh, that's awesome. I wish more water districts would do it. I know in California, where I came from, in my offices, they're very heavy on tiered rates for water. I don't know if Mesa's into that yet.
Say the question again.
Does the water there, is the water agencies or district or city put any what they call tiered rates? So they figure what your water budget is for the size property you have, how many people live there, and that's your water budget. And then if you go above it, then it goes to a higher level, and you pay more money per month. And I don't know if you have that here. I don't have it where I am. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we do have that, Rob. We do incentivize our residential, commercial, and industrial users based on a tiered rate. And so, if you break your threshold, let's say on a tier, you have to pay more. Then you'll go, well, how did that happen? And so what we've actually installed is automated meter infrastructure. And so we're going throughout our whole city, changing out every water meter to an automated system, as well as our gas meters. And that way, in real time, you can monitor your water and check your usage. And that's about a $77 million upgrade to our whole water system, because we have probably 300,000 water users, in our system. So we want to make sure that conservation and give our customers a first-hand knowledge about their water usage. So yes, we do have tiers, to answer your question.
I know in California years ago when they started putting in the automated systems, like you just described, I always go back to, it's like when you and I go to the gas station and we put the pump into the car or truck, you can see instantly how much you're getting. And I know some of the automatic systems that were put in California, there was no access. It is now. It's getting more where the user or the homeowner or the water user can go online and access that account and see actually in real time how much water they use. Is that something that your system will have or does have?
Yes, it will have, especially if you get a leak. Let's say a pipe broke on your property, you will get alert from our AMI system and say, hey, there's something wrong. And so we'll encourage, we do have apps for that, but it will be in real time, to your point, yes.
I know I'm not trying to promote my company, but us and other companies make flow meters. to get installed on new systems. So when the controller sees that there's a problem, it automatically shuts down the particular valve that has the problem leaking that. I think, California's real tough on regulations with irrigation. I'm sure it's going to be the same thing here and throughout the United States with what we see in water. I was at a meeting not too long ago, 2 weeks ago, and talking about the Colorado River and how much they're going to cut or have us reduce in Arizona. California's still going to get a big chunk. I don't know how that's going to handle it here. And then I've talked to some people who are looking to do inland desalination plants, especially for farming. And that's the question I guess I could ask you about, because you're into the farming. I don't know, do you know former Senator Sina Kerr?
We're very close friends.
Oh, she's a wonderful lady. Her whole family's wonderful people. And I know she ranches and farms, and I guess you do some sort of farming. How has the water how I guess that's the best way to ask this. Has the water or the reduction of water, any of that, affected your farming business?
It has not. I'm very fortunate to be in the Salt River Project Irrigation District, and we have adequate water supply where other irrigation districts outside the Phoenix area, active management area, does not have a lot of oversight. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of oversight in our Phoenix active management area for water. That's why Mesa, we stand really alone by having a 100-year assured water supply. And by doing that, we have to meet those criteria and metrics. I think it's every 5 years.
Mm. I was driving down. Oh, absolutely. You are lucky that you have that. I was driving down to Old Buckeye the other day on Verrado Way, and I noticed a big piece of gate, a concrete gate, and it said Grandview Dairy Farm. And as I passed it, I looked, and I see all these stalls where typically there would have been cattle standing there, but the place was completely empty. I wonder if they had an issue with water or something else, and they went out of business or sold themselves. But it was, acres and acres of this stuff, and just empty. And I kind of feel, I know Old side of Buckeye is a lot of farming territory. And, I talked to Sina about her place and stuff like that, because she has cattle she raises too. And, she's big into water. I know she's retired from her position, but she's still pretty vocal in what happens about water in her state. And I appreciate that. She's pretty good about that. Where do you see the future of water for not only Mesa, I know you got the 100-year, but in Arizona in general? Do you think it's going to improve? It's going to get better? Are we going to get into water shortages? Everybody says, all the meteorologists are claiming it's going to be very dry years coming up. We had, a couple of weeks ago, 117 degrees, 112 degrees here. How do you see that in your as a business owner, because you do the farming, and as a mayor? How do you view that?
Well, unfortunately, Arizona, and we've been in a 25-year drought. So obviously water has been an issue. Fortunately, we have some great reservoir systems in Arizona that capture water through the Verde and the Salt River watersheds. And that way, that Salt River project, and then that water can be stored in lakes called Roosevelt, Apache, Canyon, and Saguaro, and then Bartlett and, on the Verde side. But, Rob, to your point, Mother Nature is not producing the water that we have had in the past. So, again, our snowpacks and everything throughout Arizona. Arizona has a diverse water system, depending on where you're at right now, southern Arizona, because of the weather pattern coming from the Gulf of Mexico. I think Lorena is coming up, dropping more water in southern Arizona. So everything gets a measurable rain. I'm not as I get a lot of statistics to make sure that Mesa will have the ability to manage its water portfolio effectively.
Do you have restrictions on new home building or anything where they have to show? I know out towards Buckeye, going towards California, the Howard Hughes Corporation says they're going to build 100,000 homes, and the study said they have all the water for it, but then I also hear the state saying no, it's not going to achieve that. What do you see on things like that?
Yeah, fortunately, Mesa will not have that issue because we do have adequate water with our 100-year water supply designation from the Arizona Department of Water Resources. Consequently, those outlying communities will be forced, I say forced, or through the application process, will have to demonstrate that they have adequate water for their economic development. But for Mesa, that's what I'm concerned about. We're doing very well.
Well, that's good to know. If I always ask this wild question, and I did mention it to your staff, but it's not a tricky question at all. I would never do that to you. So, if the President of the United States dubbed you water czar of Arizona, what do you think are the top 3 issues that Arizona has, and what would you do first?
The water czar. That would be quite an honor. I do deal with water daily with my farming and with our municipality, but one of the things that I would really hammer on is our Colorado River allocation, making sure the upper and lower basin, which we're not really talking to each other, we're kind of working around the edges, where the president's team has said that, I think it's October or November, if there hasn't been any consensus between the upper and lower basin on the Colorado River, that they will intervene, and we may or may not like the outcome. But keep in mind that Arizona has junior adjudicated water rights on the Colorado River, where California has senior rights, and Arizona has taken a large hit, over 550,000 acre-feet of cuts to Arizona agriculture and municipal users. And consequently, we may, so the agreement lasts for 2026. So now we're negotiating for 2027 and beyond. So it'll be interesting. That's what I'd really want to work out to make sure I belong again to this coalition protecting Arizona's lifeline, which Mayor Gallego, myself, and other mayors who receive this water, we've founded this coalition, even the mayor of Tucson, to help fight for our water rights on the Colorado River and not have a lot of cuts. But we're planning for cuts, and I can explain something we've done for conservation too, if you want.
Yeah, sure.
So we know that in Mesa, water cuts were coming from the Colorado River through CAP. And so we initiated a Central Mesa reuse pipeline where we're taking all of our effluent, our wastewater, and we have an agreement with the Gila River Indian community to trade that water for their priority water off the Colorado River. And so we're subsequently planning for future cuts by building, we're actually at like a $210 million pipeline to deliver water to the Gila River Indian community for their agricultural purposes, again, for the exchange of their priority water.
Well, you're doing all the right things. And one last question. Actually, two. Make these short. I understand you're an honorary Hohokam, and maybe you can explain that to our listening audience. I know what it is, but I'd like to hear it from you. Tell our listeners.
As far, if the Hohokams are similar to the Thunderbirds in Phoenix, so you have the Phoenix Thunderbirds, you have the Mesa Hohokams. Yep. I don't remember when they're founded, but I think it's the early 50s or late 40s, late 40s, early 50s. But they are a fundraising charitable organization who works on the Chicago Cubs spring training as well as the Oakland Athletics. Mm-hmm. And they fundraise, they collect monies, and then as a charity, they disperse those monies throughout our community for nonprofits and other organizations.
Oh, that's awesome. I got to hand it to you. You definitely do a tremendous job for the city, and like I said, your total career in public service, it's amazing. And I hear nothing but excellent things. Like I said, I'm excited to meet you next Wednesday, so we'll get to see each other and do that. And I do appreciate you taking the time up. I was trying to get Steve, who's going to be on, but he had a board meeting to go to, so he couldn't do it. And but thank you to your staff, Marissa, and all the people I've talked to, and you guys are awesome. If you need anything from my company, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not a sales guy. I'm director of technology, so whatever you want to know, we can help you with. And we do a lot of stuff with HOAs and commercial buildings and such with our Toro products. But I'm not promoting us. That's not what I'm here to do. In fact, we don't even have our own commercials on the show. I won't allow that, because it's not supposed to be for that. It's supposed to be for educating and public outreach, and that's what we try to do. And having people like you again on the show makes it good for us. And we've been very successful. I think your staff told you we celebrated our 500th live show broadcast with NBC and our 10th year anniversary. So we're very proud of that. We have a lot of listeners and followers, and again, it's due to people like you and the things that you do to make environments and everything better for everybody. So thank you very much for being a guest today, and I'll be glad to meet you next week.
Yeah, and thank you, Wyland, as well as Toro, for the challenge and for the award. We're very honored about receiving that and sharing that with our schools and education component. So yeah, I look forward to meeting with you next week. So have a safe trip here. Well, actually, you say you live in Verrado anyway, so
yes,
you're in Arizona, and so great.
Yeah, my office is in California. I go back every couple of weeks, but I love it here. Everybody's so nice. You walk in the store, welcome in, and not like California. It's just different speed, but my wife and I really enjoy it here, so we love it. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, Rob. Have a great week.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. That was Mayor Mark Friedman, and we really appreciate him coming on the show today. And we have this giveaway award service for him next week with the city, and we'll report on that and probably have Steve Creech come on the day after on next Thursday and say a few words about what it is and the tremendous effort that the city of Mesa did, spearheaded by the mayor and his staff. So anyway, that's all I got for today. And again, I will give you updates on Chris's mission that he's on, and take care of that. And anyway, that's all I know. So everybody have a good, nice, warm, cool, wherever you are. If you want the opposite of what it is, enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for joining us.